Sipping and roasting, yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne.
Cheers, y'all. Just about to happen, ladies and gentlemen.
And it is. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world famous Smoking and Toasting. We're up to show number 412, and we're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We will talk about all of those things, but most importantly, we are ready to ring in a brand new year, and the perfect place to do it is Reserve 101.
Reserve 101.
And so we are excited to be here with Fowler and with Alan from Reserve 101. We're going to talk whiskey. We're going to taste whiskey. We're going to talk Reserve 101. We're going to talk the fact that this is, in fact, my neighborhood bar. I have, on more than one occasion, and that's being quite generous, stumbled right to my house from this because I can walk here from where I live, and I love that. So if you are visiting the greater Houston area, they're right across from the House of Blues downtown, and much more fun, quite frankly, than the House of Blues.
I don't know what's showing up on the video here. I haven't looked at what's coming up, but this wall of whiskey or this tower of whiskey behind us is like you will walk in here and look like a tourist in New York City for the first time.
Right. Oh, it's awesome.
What?
Nothing that Live Nation owns across the street can compete with this tower of whiskey.
And even if you end up going to a show here at House of Blues, come over here first. I've done that a few times.
And after.
Much better drinks.
And after, for sure.
A lot cheaper, too.
Much better prices. We're excited to get into all of this. Of course, this is our New Year's show. And so you guys have a few minutes to think about this, but I will be asking each of you for what your New Year's resolution is.
More whiskey.
Yeah. You have time.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, let me think about it.
More whiskey. So this is a wonderful place to ring in the new year. We'll talk all about that. And I'm going to ask them about, apparently they did a Frank Sinatra party here recently that I hate that I missed because that sounds like my kind of party. Frank knew how to throw down. That's what I loved about Mr. Sinatra. So a lot going on in the program today. We will, of course, be bringing you the normal features that we do here on the program. We'll be talking about some cigars to watch for. And, of course, we'll be bringing you the, one of the special things about this show is that you can always count on the entertainment of a little bit of musicality because Ian always brings the ukulele and plays it for us for like the drinking news song and for so go ahead and get the ukulele, Ian, so we can do the teaser.
You Mr. Funny Man.
So what happened? You without the ukulele, you just got these big hands and nothing to hold in them.
So, I left the house and I was standing there at my door thinking there's something else. And I couldn't remember what it was, but I had grabbed all the stuff I needed to, the wireless mics, the other wireless mics, made sure everything was charged, got everything in the car. Even we were thinking about doing a thing outside where we needed a table, so I had a table and some tools to make that table happen. That's an explanation that you'd have to be here to understand. And all that stuff. And I loaded my car up carefully. And I forgot the ukulele.
Well, maybe during one of the breaks of the show, because from where I'm sitting here, I can actually see out the window and see the marquee at the House of Blues across the street. And I noticed that Bone Thugs and Harmony are playing. So maybe I can go and borrow a ukulele from them.
You could, or you could have them come over here and do some harmonies instead.
Yeah. That'd be pretty cool.
And things like
That'd be pretty cool
nice,
to do
they are
Bone Thugs and Harmony
and
version.
Harmony, right?
Yeah, the Bone Thugs and Harmony version of the drinking news song.
That would be amazing.
Pretty cool.
Like I want that. I want that.
Well, without our accompaniment, I will still give you the drinking news and drinking fact. Teaser headlines. Our drinking fact, which we'll get to in just a moment on the program here. Our teaser headline is
Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Champagne bubbles, take me away.
Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, see that work.
I'm doing the best I can.
So remember the old like scrubbing bubbles, like the Calgon?
Oh, Calgon.
It was a play on that. Although, one of the things I learned from my dad by experience is that when you have to explain the joke, it's a lot less funny. But, sorry, Dad. Also, our drinking news teaser headline for today.
Na-na-na-na-na-na.
Maybe you could just do like Brian Cox does on the McDonald's. Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum.
My voice is not the same.
Our teaser headline, how not to make a fake ID. Pay attention.
How not to make one.
How not to make a fake ID. We're going to be trying some whiskeys from the, I don't know where we're going to find any.
The Tower.
We'll be trying some whiskeys, including, I understand, one of you guys barrel picks, correct?
Yes.
All right, so very cool. You guys do, what, a dozen or more barrel picks a year?
Yeah, I think we did 14 this year.
Oh, nice. So getting excited about
And
trying
ramping up the program out here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Getting excited about that. So we'll be trying a barrel pick and a couple of other things, and be doing some beer tasting on the program today from the UFO Brewing Company from Boston, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be trying their Maine Blueberry.
Oh, okay.
And I was looking on the can to try to figure out what kind of beer it is. It just says beer with blueberry. I was like, okay, that's cool. From Parish Brewing Company.
All right, I like it already.
Really excited about this. It's yet another Ghost in the Machine variation.
Oh, okay.
This one is a double IPA called West Coast Ghost.
Oh.
And so I'm really interested because pretty much all of
That's gonna have to be like a dank ghost.
Yeah.
Right,
So pretty
yeah.
much all of the Ghost in the Machine and its various spin-offs have been hazies and juicies.
they're
They've
awesome.
been they're very, very good. So it's going to be really interesting to me to see what Parish's take on a West Coast style for Ghost will be, because I think this is a little harder in my mind.
But it's Parish. They're gonna rock it.
You can almost guess. And then from Drake's Brewing Company from San Leandro, California.
I thought Drake was from
Canada, yes. Yeah. Well, apparently this is like it's like a safe house for when he wants to go to California and like mess with Kendrick.
There you go.
So we'll be trying from Drake's Brewing Company their 2024 Jolly Rodger, and it's spelled Rodger. Jolly Rodger. It's a blended barley wine and stout.
Oh.
That should
Yeah,
be interesting.
I'm in on that.
Yeah, so that should be very, very, very.
Had me at Barleywine.
And then we'll be, of course, sampling some really wonderful. At least I'm thinking they're going to be wonderful, because these guys had a lot to choose from. They showed that
They got a couple special things that are going to happen.
Yeah, so really quite excited about all of that. And Ian, we'll find out what you had the opportunity to smoke this week and maybe tell us about. But it's time now to do something. This is the first time we've done this with you guys, so I'm really excited to get your take on this. Time now to do something that we like to do in the first segment of the show, which is the beverage of mystery. And we'll have a little sound effect which we'll play here, but the point of the whole thing is that the only one of us who knows what the beverage of mystery is the person what brung it. And this week that would again be me. So I brought the beverage of mystery. Everybody else will be, tasting it completely blind. We'll see what we think of it, talk about it.
The beverage of mystery.
It smells like a slightly alcoholic Sprite.
A slightly alcoholic Sprite.
Has like gummy bear kind of.
Yeah, there's a little bit of candy to it, right?
All right. It is. Gummy bear definitely comes to mind, for sure.
Smells like Faygo firecracker. I know that's a random flavor, but Faygo, for people that are in the Michigan area, for our Battle Creek people, it smells like Faygo firecracker.
I say I've never heard of that before.
Okay. Ian, you and I made just about the same face.
Tastes like a Diet Sprite.
It's
Basically, it does taste like a Diet Sprite.
it's sour.
A little bit of a
Remember
tartness to it.
Remember, like back the first time you ever had a Fresca? That artificial sweetener taste reminds me of
That
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it has that artificial sweetener taste, but at least it's really sour.
Until it's off-put it a little, you think? You're still making a face, though.
I'm trying to get past. I'm trying to see if maybe my palate will acclimate.
A little bubbly too. It's like kind of like
It is carbonated, yes.
Yeah, kind of like a watered down Diet Sprite.
No, it's just it hits the outside of the palate here with a lot of sour. It's not balanced. It's
I just can't get past the artificial sweetener.
the artificial sweetener is not pleasant on it either. I don't know what this is, but
Artificial sweetener seems to be the biggest ongoing problem with most hard seltzers and canned cocktails. That if we complain about something, that's usually what it is the aftertaste, the artificial sweetener aftertaste. And this seems like, I agree with you, I kind of like the tartness, but then the aftertaste hits and it's kind of like...
I think this is too much of everything. Too much tart, too much artificial sweetener.
Well, I will tell you, even though I know what this is, I had not tried it until we poured it and sat down today. But it lives up to what my to what my expectations were. And so now it's time for the big reveal, or a segment of the program that we call, is that a beverage of mystery can in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? And
Little B.
Sunny D vodka seltzer. If there is any product
But Sunny D
that I
is
do
not that bitter.
want to see on my shelf at my local liquor store,
Does it
it's
contain
Sunny
at
D.
least 10% real juice?
No, but it contains 4.5% alcohol by volume, 95 calories, and 0 grams of sugar.
Because it's all fake.
It's artificial.
Yeah. So I'll let you. I can't quite read those there. Maybe you can get your glasses on. What does it say about this beverage?
It just says vodka with real fruit juice, sparkling water, natural orange flavor, and other natural flavors.
It's not disgusting like those. We've had a couple of the canned cocktails that have been just bad. This is closer to drinkable. I don't want to go so far.
I wonder
as
if
to
you
say
remember when they
drinkable.
used to put contains at least 10% real fruit juice on
Yeah,
it.
that was in high C.
I wonder
Yeah.
if made with real juice is the new contains at least 10%.
Oh yeah, made with real juice. Doesn't say how much. It's like, hey, Fred, I got this big vat ready to go. Oh, don't forget to put those 3 drops of juice in the vat.
I mean, if you look at the bottle of it was a JT Samuels bourbon.
Yeah.
It says real bourbon in every drop. But the reason is because it's like grain neutral spirits and bourbon mixture.
Right.
So there's,
A little bit.
So there's
A little
real
bit.
bourbon in every drop. Yeah. Well, it's like we have learned from our tequila expert Liliana that you always look for that 100% blue agave on the bottle, or that's not a tequila you want to mess with.
Basically.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll be back. We have some whiskey tasting to do. We'll find out what Ian had an opportunity to smoke this week, and our guest will be jumping in and telling us a lot about whiskey. We're at Reserve 101 Whiskey Bar, downtown Houston, ringing in the new year. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're doing our New Year's show, ringing in the new year at Reserve 101 Whiskey Bar in downtown Houston. And by the way, while you guys are here, you whiskey expert types, want to go over Food and Wine's new list on today's show of the 7 best bourbons under $25 and see if you agree or disagree with some of
that
that.
should be an interesting list.
That'll be fun.
It should be very good. So it's time to bring on our drinking fact. Terry, if you do the honors, please.
And now it's time for another Smoking and Toasting Drinking Fact.
I wish you guys could have heard the cheesy fanfare.
You know what's funny is
It is priceless.
I know the 3 of us, we actually heard it in our head.
100%. Sometimes, like, I get it stuck in my head, like, just during the day. Like, you know how a song does, like oh, Dua Lipa song. Oh,
Is
the
it
fanfare.
narcissistic that every time I say something that goes off?
Yes, it is definitely narcissistic. Today's drinking fact, perfect for New Year's. There are approximately 49 million bubbles in a bottle of champagne.
Wow.
That's probably close.
49 million
I wonder how they got that approximate.
bubbles. I wonder who had to count it.
Yeah, how do you figure that out?
You're like, okay, 48,900,995.
Oh, my God. Professor, the uranium was like, shut up, I'm counting bubbles. Dang it, I lost count.
Ian, I'm assuming you had an opportunity to smoke something interesting this week.
Well, I did. You know what I did? I went back to something I know and love and haven't talked about in a while. I went with an old classic, the Oscar Valdez Leaf Maduro.
Oh, you are a fan of this cigar.
You know, I like all things Oscar. It's so good. This was the Toro.
Even Meyer Wiener?
Even
I like my steaks, Oscar.
Yeah, exactly.
Even the one in the garbage can.
Yeah.
This is a Toro 6x52 coming in about almost $11, $10.50 ish.
Okay.
Wrapper, Nicaraguan jalapa wrapper, Honduras binder, Honduras filler. The appearance dark espresso brown wrapper, very oily, some veins, single band, medium firmness overall with some softer spots. Pre-light sniff on this, sweet coffee and chocolate, tea leaf, a little bit of fermented hay. I used a V cut on this. Got a medium draw. Got sweet creamy coffee, chocolate, fruit, brown sugar. The initial light on this, sweet chocolate and pepper bomb. Pepper bomb. With not a Nicaraguan pepper bomb, but
Yeah.
a pepper bomb nonetheless. With a honey graham cracker background. Retro Hill's peppery and sweet coffee. The first third on this, I got an underlying fruity note just floating beneath the prime notes of chocolate and pepper, followed by coffee and cedar. Earth and graham cracker flavors lay down the foundation. Retro Hill is pepper, cedar, and sweet coffee. Solid ash, perfect burn. The second third of the cigar, vanilla bean, makes an appearance and flows seamlessly into the palate as a sweet counterpart to the pepper. The wrapper leaves a sweet woody note on the lips along with a pleasant tingle. Retro Hill is peppery and somewhere between cedar and oak with sweet coffee. Solid ash, perfect burn. The last third of the cigar, medium, pushing into full strength at this point, yet sweet and almost creamy on the palate. The Retro Hill is peppery, woody, and sweet. Solid ash, perfect burn. Price to quality. 6. This thing is so
And
good.
it's a $10, $11 cigar.
Yes, 6.
Wow.
Every single time I pick up one of these, they're consistent. I never have a problem. It's always guaranteed smoke. Plus, the wrapped in the extra leaf is so cool. I mean, it looks great.
I will say, the way you were describing it, I kind of felt like I was Pavlov's dog and you were ringing the bell.
It's pretty good.
I was like, that sounds so good to me
Takes
right
off
now.
so many of those boxes,
Yeah,
like with
yeah.
the vanilla and chocolate. Proposed pairing on this. I had. I did a whiskey sniff with it, and weirdly enough, I ended up moving past the whiskey and went to Isle of Fiji rum.
Oh.
And went so good with it.
Well,
It just-
rum to me is one of the easiest spirits to pair with cigars.
Yeah.
It almost never fights the cigar, and depending on what rum it is, it can be a really, really nice thing. But Isle of Fiji, that's just one of those. That's from Plantaray. And by the way, Docs is going to be on the show here in
2 weeks.
like 2 weeks. So
I love Docs.
very excited. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he's
apparently, have through the grapevine that Specs, which is our kind of like flagship wine and spirits and beer store chain here in Houston, they have done a couple of barrel picks with Plantaray, and we may get to sample them, and I'm so excited.
good.
Yeah. So, but honestly, that Isle of Fiji is one for what about $38.
No, it's under $30.
Wow, it's just one of the.
It started out as 23. I think it's 26 or 27.
Yeah, it's just one of the best for the money that you
It's
can buy.
unbelievably good.
It really
and we
is.
have to stop telling people or the price will go up.
Oh yeah, it already has actually.
Because they'll be like, look at how much money we're not making.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the way it seems to have gone in the spirit world, because it feels like everything has gone up. It's like, I know when we first started the show, if I was trying to pick out maybe like an Anejo tequila to sample, on the show that week, and so I'm standing in the aisle. I could start at maybe $30-$35. Now it's $60 is probably the bottom.
Back when you were getting that for $30 or $35 a show or for a bottle is when we had to walk uphill in the snow both ways to get to the podcast.
Yeah, but it was worth it because the booze was a little cheaper. All right, we got to take a break. We will be back. I've got a cigar review for you. That's coming up, but we're going to start doing some tasting in the next segment, and I'm really excited about that because right now the only thing we've tasted was Sunny D. We'll be right back.
Sunny D.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Ian's pouring some craft beer now. We got some whiskey being poured. This is going to be a good segment. That's all this is
the fun side of the table.
Yeah, that's exactly right. By the way, speaking of fun, I want to thank our show beer sponsor for the month of December, as this is our final December show. The fine folks at Great Heights Brewing, Abihan.
You guys rock.
Oh, man.
Thank you so much.
And
enjoyed it.
I talked about this on last week's show, but that Fruity Pellets Hazy IPA has now entered the rarefied air of my top 3 IPAs ever.
I drink that quite often.
It is so good.
That's a good one.
So
Whenever
good.
I go over to Bobcat Teddy's, that's my go-to.
So for me, it's my top 3, not necessarily in order, are Fruity Pellets, Ghost in the Machine, and the Lone Pint Yellow Rose. To me, those are the 3 greatest IPAs of my drinking experience.
I would throw 90-minute and 120-minute right on top of it.
It's so hard to argue with either one of those. They're so good. And some of the Stone stuff, you can get me going for days. Instead, let me tell you about the cigar I had this week. It was the Casa Oktoberfest 2024 Kaiser Ludwig. And I have been a fan of the Casa Oktoberfest line of cigars since before I became an AJ Fernandez fanboy. So a long
It's been a while.
time. Yeah. I got one of these. Actually, Ian got it for me because he knew I was a fan, and we smoked it actually outside right here at Reserve 101 when we came over to enjoy some whiskey for Roberto's birthday.
For Roberto's birthday, yeah.
Yeah. But Casada blended the Oktoberfest specifically to pair with beer, and particularly with very malty, bready Oktoberfest style beers. From the very beginning, this seemed like a really good idea to me. The blend changes at least a little bit each year, and in all honesty, some years have been much better than others. They've always been pretty good, but some years, like 2016, for example, have been outstanding. Yeah, absolutely. So I was excited to try the 2024 Oktoberfest, even though we're well past October, and see how it stacked up with at least what I remember of some of the previous awesome years. 2024 is the 4th consecutive year that Casada has used a Mexican San Andres wrapper over a Dominican binder and filler. They've gone back to a more classic approach to packaging, which I really like. I can appreciate the ability to see easily what year this Oktoberfest comes from. And I smoked the size they call Kaiser Ludwig, which is a Toro that's 6 inches long and a 49 ring gauge, which I find just about perfect for my smoking. Pre-light notes were cedar, leather, and sweet tobacco with a definite note of cocoa powder on the cold draw. I lit the 2024 Oktoberfest and was welcomed by a nice rush of initial flavors. A little bit of pepper, although not a blast, but most importantly, lots and lots of chocolate from the very beginning. There were baking spices as well, and a yeastiness that made perfect sense for something designed to be smoked with a beer while you drink a beer. Nice mix of flavors throughout the first third and into the second. The Oktoberfest started to canoe on me a little bit in the first third. I finally dropped the ash off and did a small touch-up with the lighter, and things seemed to burn much better after that. No penalty or impact on the flavor, though. I will say that the first one of these I had that Ian gave me that we smoked here at Reserve 101 outside, that one burned razor straight. So this seemed to be like an anomaly.
I smoked 2 or 3 of them that burned pretty darn well too, so that might be an anomaly.
Second third gave me less pepper and more bread and chocolate notes. There was even a dark chocolate on the finish that I really liked. Final third kicked up the strength a bit from medium to maybe even medium to full, which surprised me actually. Toasted nuts joined the flavor party, and I couldn't help but think of those little packages of beer nuts that you can buy at convenience stores and stuff. What the hell are those coated with anyway? I don't know. I have never been able to figure it out. Burn behaved itself for the most part all the way down to the nub, and I did smoke this one all the way down because I was really enjoying it. I would even go so far as to say that the 2024 version marks a return to form for the Oktoberfest, and maybe it's even as good as 2016 and 2018.
Hard to tell because we don't have them, but
Right.
But those were that's something to reach for.
Suggested pairing? What else? A really nice malty Oktoberfest beer, or a nice Helles Lager like the one from Definitive Brewing that we had on the show last week, I think would go very well. The Casa 2024 Oktoberfest Kaiser Ludwig is a $9 to $10 cigar, and I could proudly say that it was very well worth it. These are not the easiest cigars to find, but if you do, I'm going to recommend it pretty highly. Price to quality, a 5.5
Nice.
for the Kaiser Ludwig. And guys, our price to quality scale that we do on cigars, it's a 1 to 10 scale, but a 5 means you got exactly what you paid for. So anything that scores a little higher than a 5 means it kind of outdid itself, if you will.
Gotcha.
So it's absolutely good stuff. So Ian, I see we have whiskey, we have beer. Where are we going first?
Well, I'm going to suggest we try the beer because I feel like the whiskey is going to knock the beer down a little bit.
That's possible. It is a blueberry beer after all.
This is the UFO Maine Blueberry.
So UFO is a very interesting beer company because UFO basically is Harpoon, but they opened up a second beer company, Harpoon out of Boston, which I got to know very, very well when I lived in Boston. Their IPA was what won me over into the world of IPAs.
This is
and still one of my favorites.
brewed with real Maine blueberries, and I'm going to tell you, this is absolutely delightful.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't gone there yet, so I'm excited. Oh, it smells blueberry on the nose.
You know, so a lot of times you get the flavor, you get too sweet, you get a bunch of other stuff. This is absolutely delightful. This is so well balanced. And blueberry,
Bless you, sir. So I will say, from living in Boston, and I got to know some of the Harpoon guys, very serious about beer, but very interesting and jovial. They made the decision several years into their brewery to become employee owned, and they are employee owned. There's another brewery in I want to say I don't think it's Deschutes. There's another brewery in Colorado, very famous craft brewery.
not New Belgium, right?
It might be New Belgium that is employee owned. But anyway, in any case, UFO is basically a subsidiary of Harpoon, and they released the first UFO beer, which was UFO White, was actually a Harpoon release, and then it apparently did so well that they decided, you know what, we're going to make UFO its own line, and they've done a lot of fruited beers, they've done a lot of wheat beers. That seems to be what they focus on.
David, what are you thinking about this? You're looking at it so contemplatively.
Oh, I like that it's not overly blueberry, and you get, like you said, it's not super sweet, but you get that fruity perceived sweetness.
Yeah.
It's kind of there.
It's actually surprisingly unsweet.
Yeah.
It's almost like,
It's not tart.
Well, it also has this little kind of dry brute champagne-y kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Sure, yeah. We call it the
not
Doritos effect. It makes you want more.
Go back for more.
I love it. It tastes like a blueberry. I mean, it really has that. Blueberries aren't overly sweet.
Blueberry
they
on the
didn't-
vine kind of thing.
Yeah, they didn't try and overly sweeten it up to make up. So it really has that true blueberry
Right.
taste.
It's not like a blueberry slushy or a blueberry,
No. Yeah.
a bowl of blueberries with whipped cream on top.
Yeah.
It's really that more intense
Blueberry.
almost tart.
Yes.
Blueberry flavor.
Exactly.
It
But I
also
agree.
doesn't have, sometimes when you have blueberry flavor, it has a very perfumey quality to it.
Yes.
This doesn't have that.
No. It's real natural blueberry flavor. I mean, it
I'm
it
going to
looks
go ahead
like.
and give this one of our highest, one of our highest notes of praise for any beer. I would drink this floating down the river.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely.
I was going to say, I'm not a huge fruited beer
Yes,
fan, but
this
same,
one.
same for me. And
I could do this
even,
down the river all day long.
Even the fruited sours, I might enjoy them, but one, please.
Well,
Yeah.
fruited
Yeah.
beers,
Not,
fruited beers come in 3 levels or 4 levels. 1, ugh. 2, this is nice. Let's split the bottle.
Right.
3, I can drink 1.
Yeah.
Right.
right? And 4, I could drink more than one.
I could drink it floating down the river.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. No, you're 100% right, and this falls into that fourth category. Like, and part of it is the Doritos effect, like you were saying, that sort of dry brute-like thing that makes you go, I'll take some more of that. You know?
Yeah, no perfumey, annoying aftertaste.
Oh, yeah.
None of that.
Now, I don't know what it's going to be like to go from that flavor to a full-on like whiskey flavor.
I had to do a multi-palate cleanser.
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. I'll try that. While I do, you guys tell me about this. You put a bottle of Knob Creek here. That's a Knob Creek Select Bourbon. What are we looking at?
So this is one of our barrel picks. It's, if I remember correctly, it is the first Knob Creek barrel pick to release in Texas in the last 4 to 5 years. And it's at 120 proof.
It's. I was just nosing, and I was like, it's pretty big.
And
10 years and 2 months, I think is
10 years and
what
2
it-
months
yeah.
old. So it's a little bit older than their normal Knob Creek Just Rye 9-year bourbon.
Wow, this has got such an incredible
Oh,
nose.
so the leather right up front on this is so
Are
big.
you talking the nose or did you taste?
On the taste, I just did the tiniest thing. Leather and tobacco, like right off the bat.
Yeah. The nose has some of that tobacco flower kind of flavor or
Ooh.
scent to it, as opposed to like
Man, I want a cigar. Bad. Like this is, you mentioned leather and tobacco, but leather, tobacco, chocolate, and earth to me are the most cigar-friendly notes that you could find.
I was gonna ask like what you would pair that with.
This could stand, maybe because of the higher proof, but this could stand up to a pretty legit, medium to full bodied cigar. I'm thinking, you all right? I know how that happens. Believe me. Yep, I've done this before.
That 120 goes down.
Come on, you learn
learn.
Yeah, this is quite a thing to inhale too.
We learned from Clinton you're not supposed to inhale.
I did not. I did.
Yeah, you did. I would say, though, I would go with something very Maduro and earthy for this. To be honest, the first thing that came to my mind, and I know it might be an awkward pairing, was the Drew Estate Blackened cigar, the Metallica cigar.
Oh, no, that would work
That
great.
would work really well with this, even though I know this is not the Metallica whiskey.
Pardon me, the Oscar Valdez that I had would go well with this.
And I would say from my AJ Fernandez portfolio, this would work really well. He has a New World Puro that is all Nicaraguan tobacco, and it's a very dark Maduro-looking cigar. Would go wonderfully.
I see your AJ, and I'll raise you an AJ. The
Okay.
Orlando Monterey Dark Sumatra would go with this.
Oh yeah, for sure, because that's that's a good. So lots of different. Some whiskeys pair with a couple of things perfectly and other things okay. This one I think would have a wide range of pairings that Ian would describe
I think
forming like Voltron.
Right, I think you have to have something pretty bold,
Right.
though. Like you'd have to start with the medium to really go with this, because otherwise, I feel like it'll make every other cigar taste like a campfire.
I'm getting now that I'm adjusting to the proof a little bit, getting some cinnamon. Getting a little bit of that bubblegum, that bourbon bubblegum that we talk about sometimes, and actually a little minerality on the finish.
Yep, little rainwater kind of like.
Right.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm a fan of Knob Creek, but
Well, when you're not breathing it, it tastes quite delicious.
I do that all the time. But when you do it with an overproof whiskey, that's going to take you a minute.
It did brought tears to my eyes pretty quickly.
So, guys, this is a barrel pick. Let me ask you about the process when you guys do a barrel pick. Do they send you samples of different barrels? Do you go to the distillery and sit around and go, okay, let's try this barrel?
Suckle straight from the barrel, if you will.
All of the above.
Oh yeah, okay, I love it.
A lot of it depends on the distillery. Some
Right.
do it some ways, some do other ways.
Some it's
Particularly,
particularly
this one. One of the owners went to Knob Creek, and
Right.
basically they pull out some barrels that they approve of to put their product out on the market, and you get to choose through those barrels, and then you kind of taste through and
So like a lot of the distilleries, I believe they have barrels that they'll set aside as these could be a barrel select thing.
Exactly.
And it could be. I wonder if it's because the flavor deviates more from what exactly they were going for, because every barrel is going to be a little different, and I wonder if it's because it's more unique that they go, okay, this would be a good barrel pick for this, or if that's how they choose it.
Some occasions, yeah,
because they have to taste all the barrels.
Yeah, like I said, every distillery does a little bit different.
I mean,
that's kind of how they do their
worst
single
job
barrels
ever.
too.
Right.
Single barrel release, they're like, oh, that is special. That should be a single
That
barrel.
should be on its own.
Basically,
Yeah. So, Ian, we haven't talked about this on the air yet, and certainly the
Okay, well, I was young and I needed the money. Okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's not what we're talking about. Sorry.
We haven't talked about that either, but we probably should. No, we haven't talked about this, but there is a real good chance we're going to be doing a smoking and toasting barrel pick next year.
I'm pretty excited
will be
about
our first. I'm really, really psyched about it. We'll give you more details about this, but I already know what my plan is for the process. Come in, sit down, drink, and go, yeah, that's good, but... and just keep saying that until all the barrels are exhausted and go, yeah, I really like that first one.
Can we go back to that first one?
All right, we got to take a break, and we will come back. More to taste, more to talk about. And I want to get into this this list that we've got of the best bourbons the 7 best bourbons under $25. We'll get to that coming up. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Ian is pouring our next beer, which we'll get into in a moment here. And I think, this is going to be an important one to talk about because this is the West Coast Ghost, yet another variation of Ghost in the Machine from Broussard, Louisiana's Parish Brewing Company. And honestly, these guys are one of my all-time favorite breweries now, and I just don't think they get as much attention as they would if, say, they were from Portland, Oregon. I don't know. Just maybe that's me. I think a lot of Texas and Louisiana breweries do not get the recognition that they deserve.
I got to be honest. I think that I think Ghost in the Machine has put them on the map and put them on the map in the way that within the community,
right?
Within the community, within the beer community, they are like the biggest, baddest.
Yes, 100%.
But it's kind of like going to see Joe Satriani. There's going to be a lot of dudes there. So I'm just saying.
So I'll tell you a quick story from my radio experience back in the day, because that was my background, was doing broadcast radio, right? And I was in Top 40 radio for a number of years. And the great thing about Top 40 radio is that the audience is primarily female. So for a single guy, which I was at the time, that's
you could do worse,
you could do worse, right? So I'm working for this Top 40 station. The owner comes in one day and announces we're flipping to album rock. Now, musically, I like that better, but I was so bummed because album rock, it's mostly dudes, right?
Dudes.
Except here's what I learned: there are not as many women who listened to album rock as there were that listened to Top 40, but they were much easier.
Just easier to get along with.
Easier to get along with is exactly what I'm saying. Yes, that's exactly what I'm getting at. Oh, the days of mine youth. So let's taste this some West Coast Ghost here, shall we?
Oh, I've been doing some research. This is beautiful. This is balanced in only. This is balanced in only the way that you find like Stone.
Right.
Or this is such a good idea. It's malty. It's ridiculous. There's that sweetness right up front, and then it follows into this dank.
Yeah, it's totally
without the pine cone.
Right. It's totally got the West Coast bitter and the dankness.
Yes.
But it never devolves into that piney, resiny,
that sappy
overdone West Coast thing.
It's not as hoppy. Like, it is the hops, but it's not as bitter as like normal West Coast.
Well, that's the
more
whole
balanced.
thing. When you have a company like this making something so incredibly balanced, or Stone, or some of those that are really masters at doing it, it can be this kind of hoppy without being incredibly bitter.
Yeah,
we've talked about this a lot.
Not palate wrecking.
Yeah.
Right. We've talked about this a lot. The phase that craft beer went through when all of a sudden it was like, how hoppy can you go? And everybody was trying to out-hop everybody else.
Right.
And there were a lot of bad beers released during that time. I mean, I'm an IPA guy. I love hazies, but I also love a really good West Coast. This is as good a West Coast as I can think of right now.
That you don't get from the West Coast.
That you get, right.
It turns
you get from Oysterland.
It turns the whiskey almost into something between a graham cracker and a sugar cookie.
It turns the whiskey into that. Okay.
So try that when you get a second.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty interesting, right?
It brings out an almost sugary quality to it. And not an unpleasant, not like a too sweet, but just like you said, like a sugar cookie.
I don't know that I would call that a pairing, but it's interesting to see what happens.
For sure.
Because the whiskey doesn't get any better. I think the whiskey actually suffers a little from it, but it's an interesting thing that it does.
Yeah, you lose some of that deeper bourbonishness.
Yeah, a lot of the
still
sweetness.
The whiskey doesn't even phase this beer.
Well, this beer is unfazable. It is West Coast.
Yeah, it doesn't even
Comparison
put a dent in the palate of this beer.
I'm an unadulterated fan. This is good stuff. All right, so let me bring to you from a list from Food and Wine, pretty reputable publication and website. Although these days I don't know if they're even still making a magazine, but they have the website. They prepared a list for us of the 7 best bourbons under $25. Now, I would have done
actually
under
looking
30.
forward to this list.
I would have done under 30, but under 25 is even
I like that they
more
put that
ambitious.
higher price point.
Yeah.
All right. So the first one at number 7 on the list.
You remember we did our bottom shelf and it was $15.
Right.
So it had to be less than $15. It had to be, or at $15 less, and it had to be actual bourbon.
And some of them were just awful.
Some of them were terrible.
There were a few good ones though.
But yeah, some of them were pretty darn
People
good.
always ask me, what ones did you like?
Yeah,
We liked Old Granddad.
Old Granddad. When everyone knew Old Granddad, the minute we tasted it, we were like, "Oh, Old Granddad."
Yeah.
And Benchmark did pretty good, and then Quality House.
Quality House. I don't know
The
if you've ever
cheapest
heard of
looking
Quality. It
never heard of that
totally looks like a generic brand from like Stop and Shop.
Look at all those bottles of whiskey and not one quality house. on it.
You guys might want to think about it. I'm just saying.
want to rethink.
Just saying.
Welcome to Smoking a Toast. We go to Reserve 101, a premier whiskey bar, and we talk about Quality House.
It looks like the Walmart of whiskey. I mean,
Yeah.
really, when you look at it, I mean, it looks
Yeah.
like something you
Yeah.
just pick up at Walmart when you're in California.
Fred's whiskey.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a white label that says whiskey.
At number 7 on this Food and Wine list is the Jim Beam Double Oak Twice Barreled.
Oh yeah,
Can you really get that for under $25?
Yes, you can.
Wow. Jim Beam is the best-selling bourbon in the world, but their Double Oak Twice Barreled gives its sibling a run for its money on flavor. They say it's priced around $23.
Yeah, that'd be right.
That is amazing. Four Roses, just the straight ahead Four Roses bourbon. We had, by the way,
Four Roses is solid.
It's what we use as our house right now.
that's just amazing.
Straight well poured.
And we had the Four Roses Single Barrel Select on the show a while back, and that was really outstanding.
I think that's my favorite.
Really outstanding. But the regular old Four Roses bourbon, you can pick up for under $25.
Nothing wrong with
It's 80
that.
proof, and there's not a thing wrong with it in the world. We mentioned this earlier, but here it is bonded. Old Granddad.
It'd be
bonded.
worried if that wasn't on this.
This
wait,
if that's not on there, this is not a legit.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're talking
Surprisingly skews sweet despite its proof, and sweetness isn't the only thing going on with Old Granddad bonded.
Dude, Old Granddad
pick it
is
up.
like Weller Special Reserve is like my go-to when it's not around.
Right.
Old Granddad is the next. Like it's
about. I
just.
mean, it works well like by itself.
So
it
good.
works well in old fashioned.
Yes.
It works well
Oh,
in a
all
Manhattan.
around.
It holds up to all
Everything
those
about
different flavors.
Next on the list is Benchmark Full Proof.
Yeah.
This is from the Buffalo Trace Distillery, typically under $25, and it packs a punch at 120.
Now you got to watch if you're buying Benchmark because there's about 14 different
There are,
Benchmarks
yeah,
lined
top
up all
barrel,
next
top
to
barrel.
each other.
They say it's full-bodied,
Bonded.
strong, and flavorful as many bourbons that regularly cost up to 3 times as much. So the one they recommend specifically, benchmark
Full proof. Also, they're bonded and their 8-year are all very acceptable.
We've talked about this one a number of times. And number 3 on the list is Wild Turkey 101.
Which is my
Old
next.
reliable.
I noticed you have a bottle of right up there. Yep.
Oh yeah.
You
That's
know,
my
and I've told my
baseball
story with wild turkey. We used to do shots of wild turkey out in the garage on Christmas Eve, me and my dad and my brothers. And I hated wild turkey. And then one time, as a joke, my brother was in town, and he gets me a shot of wild turkey and sets it in front of me, and I take a sip, and I go, "That's freaking delicious." Because I didn't take a shot of it.
Right. The
I
difference,
just sipped it. And I was
the
like, this
difference
is
between
so
shooting
good.
and sipping, my
And I
friend.
realized that wild turkey is amazing. It's so good. Wild turkey is one of those things where I would almost contend, if you don't like wild turkey, you actually don't like bourbon,
Yep.
$23.
because it's like the quintessential bourbon.
Yep.
Like that's what bourbon tastes
That's
like.
like,
Also has that stigma because people grew up
Yeah, you're
shots of
shooting.
it and
Yeah,
getting hammered
Right.
on it.
So like, I don't do anything illegal, but whenever I sneak something into a stadium, it's usually Wild Turkey 101.
Number 2 on the list is Old Forester 100 proof.
Nothing wrong with Old Forester.
And number 1, Evan Williams, Bottled and Bond.
Oh, that's a good
That
number
is-
one.
These are
fantastic.
the under $25 whiskeys. So check them out, and we'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasted.
That's pretty legit.
That is a
Welcome back. It's hour 2 of Smoking and Toasted. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled
boy.
cigars. This is show number 412, and I believe you've done some of the math on this, have you not?
Yes. Well, if you take 412, you split it exactly in 2, and then you add 7. You get halfway exactly to 500.
Okay, we're halfway to 500. I'm very excited about it.
Don't try to
So,
do the math.
I don't know what we're going to do. We haven't talked about what to do for the 500th show.
It's gonna be
Should it be a
something.
celebration?
Oh yeah,
What about
500 shows.
Here's what I was thinking.
Who does 500 shows besides like Joe Rogan, right?
Here's what I was thinking.
not me.
Open bar at Reserve 101. What do you think?
If we could get them to sponsor it.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah?
we might be able to make something
No pressure. You're just on camera. The guys here at Reserve 101. And I will say again, this is my neighborhood bar.
This is a
This
beautiful
is the
place.
bar I stumble home
Let's
from.
talk. Let me
most
talk about
often.
Reserve 101 for a second. So first off, their staff is amazing. Everybody behind that bar can tell you.
I'm
Can tell
serious,
you
though.
whatever you want to know. Like if you don't know anything about bourbon, ask. Don't be shy. Don't think like you already have to know what's going on.
And that's a good point. Don't
I
be
still ask. I
intimidated.
know 2 things about bourbon.
Yeah. Don't be intimidated by walking in and seeing this tower of whiskeys. All this is a display to what can be.
Yeah.
And you walk in, you make a friend, you talk to Fowler, you go, all right, here's what I've tried that I like. What do you suggest? These are my favorite conversations when it comes to spirits and beer and cigars. Like, I know I like this, but I want to try something new. What should it be? Is that not one of your favorite questions to get from a customer? Yeah.
100%.
Well,
Yeah.
and I've been here enough times too to where when I walk in, sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, pick me something. But you guys know me, so you know that I'm not. First off, I'm not that picky. As long as it's good whiskey, I'm going to be happy. And second off, I like lots of things.
Yeah.
So that I know it makes it pretty easy.
It's a good thing. So speaking of lots of things, you guys have prepared for us a side-by-side that I think is going to be very interesting. You first poured us some very interesting Jim Beam Black. Tell me about this really big bottle.
Probably want to take that one.
We've had
Pretty
this on the
simple.
show.
I mean,
The bottle was smaller, but yeah.
Yeah, so
They're 7-year.
So, okay.
Yeah, they just reformulated it,
The white
basically.
label.
Now, for somebody who goes, yeah, Jim Beam, that's I don't know, that's like more like, Jack Daniel's Old Number 7 or something like that's a little more mainstream whiskey. Why is black different?
It's aged a little bit longer than the normal white label, but also kind of to that point is Jim Beam, Jack Daniel's, they've all been making whiskey for over 200 years.
Right.
Like, they know what they're doing.
They're
like people,
pretty good at it.
There's no stigma. Like the stigma around it being bad is, I think, a wrong point of view to look at.
Right. Well, I
I
will
think
say,
you just taste it, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
well, when I have like an old number 7, to me that's just too sweet. Like that really doesn't work for my palate. But I have had some other Jack Daniel's expressions
Well,
that
I'll
have
point out-
blown me away.
I'll point it out this way: the old number 7 is my least favorite of their line.
Okay, that's a good way to say it.
It's my least favorite line. And I feel like old number 7 is, and maybe this is unfair because here's the problem, because it is so ubiquitous. Maybe I think run of the mill when I think old number 7 because that has been around for so long, and maybe it is because that's where it started. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
But everything else they make, everything beyond that is brilliant. Like it just keeps getting better and better throughout all the price points too. It's pretty amazing.
Look, I think too, like Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, they're on a global scale.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have to have your consistent
baseline,
product
yeah.
all
Sure.
the way through, and then you have your experiments after.
So this right here is just the next level up. It's a $35 for a
Yeah.
$750, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No,
And I got to tell you, this is just straight ahead, wonderful whiskey. It's not, highly proofed. It's not like, super crazy bottle and bond, seriously elite, but it is so straightforwardly good.
I guessed it on Rob the Spirit Box when this first came out, and we did a video, and we put this side by side with Black.
Yeah.
Which this is the rebranded and slightly revised version of it. And I say revised because they did change it a little bit, okay? And we put it, and we did a blind taste test back and forth, and both it was unanimous that this was the better whiskey.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they even bumped up what was their next level whiskey to another level at that.
Yep.
And so this is something that is very affordable, right down the middle in terms of like, this is what you expect whiskey to taste like. If that makes sense.
Yep.
And it's perfectly palatable by itself, neat
traditional
like we're
bourbon.
having it.
Yeah. So it's like a traditional bourbon. It's
Right.
if you want, for listeners, if you want a traditional style bourbon, American style bourbon.
The one
Jim Beam
thing I'm a little
Black is very
surprised
good.
about with this particular one is the notes of tobacco that show up in the back of the palate, because you don't get any hint of that in the old number 7 at all.
Right.
Like I don't find that at all. I find the old number 7 has its definitely own thing going on, but that's not even remotely a part of it. This one has hints of tobacco and mineral water that you don't get from that at all.
A lot of minerality on the finish, yeah, 100%. And I agree. Again, begging for a cigar. It's just really.
I don't get maybe the tiniest hint of banana.
There's a little in there.
A little, yeah.
But not like the banana bomb that the number 7 is,
All right. Now, you've also poured us another Jim Beam, but this one was poured out of a bottle that looks like a bowling
It was
pin.
poured out of a bowling pin.
So this is the vintage. Talk to me
love
about
that.
that.
So vintage whiskeys, we're the only bar / restaurant or public place that sells vintage whiskeys in the state of Texas.
Wow, the whole state. That's
the whole
crazy.
state. Other states are allowed to do it, but this one is a Jim Beam from the 70s. So it could be anywhere from about 74 to 77.
This totally looks 70s.
Yeah.
Meaning it was bottled in the 70s.
bottled in the
not,
70s,
Not it was made and then aged or anything. This
Exactly.
was bottled in the
Bottled
70s.
in the 70s. So it's
and
probably-
out for sale, yeah.
It's a 6-year bottle and bond, so that means it was probably distilled late 60s, early 70s, depending on the year that is. And it's in a little 10-bottle decanter.
I love it.
Back in the late 50s up until about the mid 80s, a lot of whiskey distilleries were putting whiskey in decanters to try to boost sales.
Some different, yeah. So I've seen them that were in the
different
shape of firearms.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen them that were in the shape of. My dad had one that was in the shape of a ship. I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
But he just had the old bottle.
And seen
They
King
did
Kong
like ceramic
warnings and all kinds
cats
of
and
stuff.
ceramic dogs and all kind of stuff. Yeah. Old Foresters is famous for one of theirs, and they did this really cool. You can look it up later down the road, but they call it the Sputnik. and this is like this really cool 50s like hourglass type, looked like a satellite type thing.
That's so cool.
They're pretty famous about that. So we chose this as like both. Obviously, the Jim B. Black is 7-year. This is a 6-year. So age statements are about the same. Proof is fairly close to the same. And just seeing what something from the 70s tastes like.
So obviously, when whiskey is aged, it's aged in barrels or specific.
The nose.
Yeah. Oh, this is really good.
Oh, hi, you've been doing research?
Oh, yeah.
So immediately on the nose, I get the banana.
Right.
Like that happens just right off the bat. There's also, what else am I getting there? Cinnamon. There's
Has a really cool floral quality to me.
Yes, it is. It is very floral. It's in a way that it's not that
this is
normal for whiskey. I think.
No, yeah.
wow. It's like tobacco and chocolate.
Yeah, like the nose is completely different than the
Wow,
flavor
that's
profile.
crazy. I love it.
It just shows the evolution of what Jim Beam did in the 70s to.
Well, you have to
Yeah.
wonder. Okay, so you have to wonder
wild.
if you're making a product, and you're making a product that's it's an organic product. So it means like your ingredients are always changing, because even if you plant the same seeds in the same ground, your environment can change. You're going to have different rainwater. You're going to have different amounts of sunlight and stuff like that. So that means no matter what you're making something like this out of, there's going to be variations in it. And then you're trying to blend it down to the exact same profile every single time. And it's amazing what like some years can do. Not only, of course, it's sitting in a bottle, and it's since the 70s.
Well, I was going to ask
But
that
also
question.
the age statement and the barrels, like all those variations, and how much different they can actually be by this much amount of time.
So I was going to ask that question. It ages in barrels for 6 years, but then it's been in this bottle since the 70s. Are there changes to the flavor across that many years just in the bottle?
It could be.
Yeah.
I mean, you have oxidation, which happens. It kind of like changes the flavor up a little bit. But
even
as far
if
as
there's
aging,
a small,
even if there's aging, there's really not.
Was the bottle open just recently? I mean, was it just sitting there sealed, closed?
Yeah. So
That's part of the so vintage spirits in Texas went live not this past September, last year September, and part of the stipulations is it's like 200 ml or larger, has to be sealed, brand new bottles.
Yeah.
So this was not opened up until about a month or two ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it has been completely sealed.
So, and you talked about the fact that you're the only bar in the state of Texas that's doing this. What got you into this, and where did you find these vintage bottles?
The law kind of passed, and no one else really wanted to do it. And
Yeah, we were pretty
the top
prepared
whiskey
for it,
bar
too.
in the city, so why not?
But who's hanging on to this much whiskey? Like, who's hanging on to vintage whiskey?
It's actually not hard to find some of these.
Really?
Because a lot of these bottles you can still find on the shelf internationally.
And then, a lot of this,
So-
like specifically this, it was only available internationally. All this was export stuff. So a lot of our vintage bottles are labeled in Italian.
oh wow!
So is this just still in warehouses over there or something that,
It's still
that they
like-
bought years ago?
still like on the shelf in
Wow.
some places, depending on the country that you're in.
Wow.
So a lot of dusty bottles. is
A lot
what
of
you're
dusty
saying.
bottles,
Definitely.
Wow.
That's pretty wild.
And
so
so we
cool.
get them from auction sites, secondary market.
Luckily, we have like Houston Bourbon Society helps us procure some of these.
That's so cool.
And then we've gotten to the point where people actually reach out to us and are like, "Hey, we have these."
We have this.
Oh, well, so you say
yeah.
that you're actually doing this.
Yeah.
Kind of
We actually just bought a bottle in that was distilled and bottled before Prohibition.
like
Wow.
19 teens, the old
Wow.
If we really want to try something old,
So-
like,
That's
And
crazy.
then, like the
Is your
lineage
expectation
of what
that-
that distillery became morphed into, and
Are you expecting it to be
What?
good, though?
What would a
I don't
pour?
know, maybe, yeah.
What would a pour of
Tell me
something
those-
that old?
well, that one is
that one's pretty reasonable, actually.
it's 250 an ounce, which isn't that bad.
Especially for something that old.
105 year, 110 year whiskey.
That's
But also, we price all of our stuff based on like our cost.
Yeah. Well, so
We're
you
not-
have to break it down to like, what did you pay per ounce, so to
Yeah,
speak?
yeah.
And
But those old ones, like you want to try it.
Next year for Christmas, all I want just buy me a whiskey.
just a 2 ounce pour.
Yeah, just 2 ounce.
2 ounce pour.
All I'll be
Just
looking
2
for.
ounces of whiskey.
All right, we got to take a break.
$500.
We will return here momentarily. Still have drinking news on the way. Still have some very interesting beer to sample and more, including, I want to bring this up with these guys, a list of the best Scotch whiskeys under $60.
Okay.
All right, so we'll have fun with that. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are on
those
location today at a really wonderful place, which is steps from my house, and I love that. We are at Reserve 101 Whiskey Bar in Houston, and Reserve 101 personalities, bartenders, specialists, if you will, are with us here. We have Alan and David Fowler, and we're super excited about having you guys on. And I want to run some of these, some of this list that I have past you guys and see what you think about this. Smoking and Toasted is heard every week on great radio stations like 93.5 FM and AM 930 KAFF in Flagstaff, Arizona. What's up, Flagstaff? Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. The Whiskey Wash is a really cool website if you're a whiskey fan. And they did a list recently of the best Scotch whiskeys under $60, which you said during the break, Fowler, is kind of like the best bourbons under 25.
Equivalent.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. You can expect them to be
Considering,
a little more expensive, but here are the ones that they recommend under $60. The first one at a $42 average price is the Arran, A-R-R-A-N, the 10-year-old. You guys are familiar with this, I would assume?
Very much.
Yeah. This is a. What do you think of this being on the list? Is this
It's fantastic.
that
yeah.
legit?
Yeah. I actually have a bottle at the house.
Okay.
That's very good.
I like that. How about the Ledag 10-year-old?
I have not.
Well,
had
they-
one.
I am not familiar.
Yeah. not
Ledag
really
to
that
me is very one-dimensional, but it's
$52 is the price.
it's a nice whiskey, but it's very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And when you say one-dimensional, what does that
It's
mean?
not complex.
Right.
It's not like you're not going to sit there and pontificate over all the different notes you're getting. You're going to get exactly what it tastes like, and it's a one-trick pony, but it's a good pony.
Well, there are some cigars that I like that are like that. They're
Right,
not complex, but boy, the flavor that they do
Right.
give you is really good and consistent throughout. And so sometimes that's really kind of what you're looking for. So the next one on the list is Tobermory 12-year. Is this something you're familiar with?
I'm not familiar with that one either.
So it's interesting. They are from the Isle of Mull, and the Tobermory distillery produces two distinct styles of whiskey. Ledag is their peated expression, and Tobermory is their unpeated expression. So
This is a little more complex. It's a little more subtlety to it. It's also a little more delicate on the palate. So
one of the things I
Isle of where?
the Isle of Mull, M-U-L-L.
it should be like North Highland, like
Yeah.
up in the
Okay,
Highlands
okay.
area. Yeah.
And also, that's where Martin Mull, I believe, is from, and I always love Martin Mull. So one of the things I like about this list is there's a number of things that I'm either not familiar with at all or not super familiar with, and this next one is an example of that. It is the 10-year-old Ben Romack. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good
any
one.
of the Ben Romacks are going to be good.
So this is
It's
a peated, it's a peated whiskey,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But it is a $36 bottle.
Yeah.
So pretty
that
good way to get into peated whiskey
Yeah,
at $36. How about Ben Riach?
Oh, Ben Riach, fantastic.
They recommend the 12.
Yep.
It's a $54 bottle. And they say here that even before Ben Riach was acquired by Brown-Forman, the distillery was known for producing affordable, lively single malts.
Yep.
So,
Space
agree with that one.
stick on that.
all right, so those were the ones that they listed.
I want to point out, if you're looking at shopping in the right place, I've seen Glenmorangie La Santa as low as $54 $55-ish, $58.
Dude, there is
Which
not.
is
I would
their
put
sherry
thing
cask, right?
Yes, that's their sherry cask. I would also put Glenmorangie 10
Yes.
100% on that list because that stuff is golden.
And the 12 is just, you paid just a little bit more. That 12 is spectacular.
Iran also was not a fairly old distillery. They won best Scotch, I think, 2 years ago.
Wow.
Best tenure, if I remember right. They're also up in the islands up north
Right.
in the Highlands.
So you mentioned that you've got, some of these bottles at home. Tell me, when you're, you get home, you're at the end of a day, you're going to pour yourself a drink. What steers you towards a Scotch on one particular evening? What steers you towards a bourbon on another particular evening? Is there a difference in what you're sort of looking for or craving from a flavor standpoint?
For me, I'm typically it depends on the mood I'm in, but now that I think about it, if it's cold and rainy, I typically go for a Scotch.
Because it's cold and rainy
Yeah,
there.
it's cold and rainy there, but the peated Scotches really kind of warm
That
my
cold and raininess,
my
yeah.
heart a little.
I don't know that I
feels
ever,
like you're drinking a
I don't know that I
campfire,
ever
or
put
tastes
that
like you're
together, but
drinking
I
a
think I
campfire.
do more Scotch when it's cold outside
Yeah,
too.
and then if it's sunny and fun day, I typically go for an old Grey Down 114 is my go-to.
That's a good one.
I know I'm more inclined to smoke a pipe when it's cold outside. I don't know why.
Well,
During the summer, it's all cigars, all the time.
But yeah, so I mean, sitting outside when you got the fire, because I have my setup. I have a little fire table right here next to me, and then right in front of me is my little chimenea, and it's cheerily firing away. And a pipe is real nice when you're doing that.
I love it. We're going to take a break.
A
We'll be
pipe and a
back.
dram.
Guess what, my friends? Drinking news is next, and so is a Barleywine Stout blend. Very excited.
Kind of excited
We'll be right
about that.
back. It's Smoking and Toast.
In the beginning, so the story goes.
Welcome back to Smoking and Toast in our program. I love when you do that. Is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're celebrating the new year, ringing in the new year at Reserve 101 downtown Houston, and enjoying the hell out of this. And I have to say, now Ian's pouring our next beer, which is a barley wine and stout blend. And I'm super excited about getting into this. I don't know what to expect from it, to be honest. I know Ian is a big barley wine fan, and I know that...
I like barley wine.
Yeah, but I know that he's also a much bigger fan of the European style of barley wine than the American style. So I don't know what this is. I don't know about the stout element, but we'll find out all of it soon. In the meantime, because Ian did not bring the ukulele, we're going to do an experience now, which we like to refer
I don't have
to.
my mouth harp or nothing.
Yeah, that's right. There's an experience we like to refer to as Pentian Tonics, which is going to be an a cappella rendering, just like Pentatonics, of the Drinking News song. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ian Barry.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for our drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take
my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. That worked better than I expected.
Y'all are making me work for it when I forget my ukulele.
Yeah. Oh, he won't forget again. I'm just saying. It won't happen
Keep it in your
again.
truck permanently, and you'll be fine.
Well, with the holidays almost over, we've already, thought we'd reflect today on the one topic that's sure to cause stress and strife at all of our family gatherings. And no, I'm not talking about politics. I mean, we've already made peace with that in our extended family and actually agreed to allow Uncle Clyde to wear his tinfoil hat at the Christmas dinner table. How did that go? Not bad. Although we did have a touch-and-go moment where he claimed that he'd been getting secret messages from Flo from the insurance commercials, and she told him that the ridges along the edge of the cranberry sauce were actually put there by ancient space aliens as a
But
warning to us
does
all
she-
about Shia LaBeouf.
Does she know how to get around the tinfoil hat?
Yeah.
I mean, like that's serious. If you can penetrate a tinfoil hat, whew.
Well, far be it from me to agree with freaking Flo from the insurance
And
commercial.
the Sheila Booth thing, that's a little scary.
But I think in this case, she might be right.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, other than politics and certifiably insane Hollywood actors, the only thing that some families seem to be more passionate about and more willing to argue over at the holiday table is their favorite sports teams. Now, Ian, I know you're not a big sports guy, but I
like
tell you,
sports ball.
I have lived in some cities where people are absolutely insanely nuts about their teams. I spent several years in Boston, where the Red Sox are more of a sacred religion than most denominations. And in Philly, where fans back in December of 1968 were so disgusted by how horrible the Eagles were that season that when Santa Claus came out on the field as a part of the halftime show, they actually booed him mercilessly.
How do you boo Santa Claus?
And they threw snowballs at him and his sack of toys.
That's the worst. Hey, wait, isn't Philadelphia where what's his name had to have his rant on the comedian? What's his name?
Chappelle?
No, we went and saw him.
Bill Burr.
Bill Burr did like this crazy rant because the audience was so like bad.
Yeah.
City of Brotherly Love.
He literally did like a 20-minute rant at them. It was crazy. You need to watch it at some point.
City of Brotherly Love. Well, I'll tell you what. If you think pro sports is a little nuts, I don't know why Siri keeps popping up on my screen here. Go away.
Does it smell a little spicy to you?
College football.
Like a little jalapeno?
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true. College football is even more outrageous than pro sports. In fact, our main story today is about the recent college football game at Kyle Field in College Station, Texas, where the Texas Longhorns from UT took on the Texas Aggies.
Wait a second.
From
Are you
A&M.
telling me that college football in Texas is crazy?
Yeah. The story is not so much about the game itself, but about how difficult it was to even get tickets to the event and the different ways that people tried to get into the stadium.
I read this story a while back.
One man tried to enter the stadium riding a horse.
Hey, legit, man, be a cowboy.
While another guy and his dog tried to get in riding an actual Longhorn steer.
Legit, come on.
The men and their animals were all ejected from the stadium.
The problem is, where's the steer sitting? Because if you got nosebleeds, you're a little screwed.
Yeah. Hopefully you got
Yeah.
field
Can you
tickets.
imagine? Yeah, can you imagine guiding that steer all the way up to the nosebleeds?
Also
Or the
read,
amount of poop that it would leave on the stairs.
I also read a story of these two kids, college kids, who got arrested.
Well, that's what our story's about. Two Texas men who came up with a more crafty plan to get into the game.
It was a sneaky sneak.
Yeah, it didn't work.
It didn't work quite well.
But you do have to admire the audacity of it. Campus police report that the two Texas men were arrested wearing reflective vests and hard hats, who had claimed they were construction workers who needed to check out a vital issue with the stadium.
Well, yes.
And they might have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for those meddling kids in their mystery machine.
Yeah, we need to inspect the stadium. I mean, we know it's game day, but we want to make sure it's safe today.
Actually, my story's not true. They might have gotten away with it. But something about their faked credentials and their IDs as construction workers tipped off the clever campus cops that something might be amiss.
McLovin.
The names on their fake IDs were, wait for it, Harry Ascrack and Duncan McCockiner. Clearly our fake construction workers.
Sorry, hold on.
So that's where y'all went. Y'all went there. When you looked up to it, you chose those names.
Wait a second. But I can see the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna pull off this big thing. You're like, we're gonna get in, right? And then you have to make fake IDs. But what's funnier than those names, right? So how do you make fake IDs without those names?
Right.
Like, because Joe Smith wouldn't have been as
Yeah.
funny.
Clearly.
And it probably would have gotten him in. That's the thing. I mean,
Yeah,
where
clearly.
were you know, like, it'd be funny if we got in, but it'd even be
get that.
funnier if I got in.
What was the first one?
Harry Ascrack.
Harry Ascrack.
Clearly, our fake construction workers in this case were, in fact, a little too clever for their own good. In today's world of amazing home
Coppers aren't
printers,
smart.
yeah. Today, you can have amazing home printers and all kinds of devious software. It's easier than ever to produce pretty convincing fake IDs for any number of uses. And here at Drinking News, we would never encourage the making or use of fake IDs.
Oh, no.
If you decide to make one, we suggest trying a name like Bob Smith or John Brown or Terry Michaels. Something that won't draw a lot of attention to the fact that your ID might in fact be a forgery, just like you guys were saying. And with a tip of the cap to one Bart Simpson, we've also put together a list for you of fake names you might want to avoid, as they could, in the same way as Harry Ascrack and Duncan McCockiner, tip off the authorities.
Could raise a little bit of a red flag.
Yeah, they tip off the authorities that something you might not be exactly on the level. We've arranged
Raise
these
more
for
than
you.
a flag with Duncan.
We've arranged these for you in the form of another Drinking News Top 5 list. This would be the top 5 fake names you might not want to use on your fake ID. Could we get a little top 5 list music?
Dun, 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 dun.
Top 5 fake names you might not want to use on your fake ID. Number 5, Maya Normusbutt. Number 4, Drew P. Wiener. Number 3, Lee Key Bum. Number 2, Mike Rochburns. And number 1, fake name you might not want to use on your fake ID. Number 1, Haywood Jablomi. Reporting live from Kyle Field in Texas, where I'm being detained while they check my ID. My name is Hugh Jassol, and that is your...
Mr. Jassol, paging Mr. Jassol, Mr. Hugh Jassol.
And that is your...
Drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
So here during the holiday season, a lot of people listen to that Pentatonics Christmas album. So we're just responding in
Yeah,
kind
that's
with
it. That's what we're
with
doing.
a little acapella Ian.
Yeah, I left my ukulele at home intentionally just for that exact same reason.
Yeah.
As you were a little sketchy about it, but once I left it at home, there was no choice, right?
That's right. We had to do what we had to do. And thank you for what we had to do. Appreciate that. Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Our last drinking news segment of 2024.
Oh, you made it special.
Is that what I do?
Yeah. So, barrel aged
Yeah. So
Jolly
this is
Rodger.
barley wine and stout blend, a barrel-aged Jolly Rodger, and that's their 2024. So this is something they do.
That's a bit of a spice on the nose.
It sure does.
So, it, like on the nose, we were talking about it over here while you were blathering.
As he tends to do.
My name is Hugh Jassel.
We were talking about it over here. It almost smells like jalapeno
Yeah, I was thinking like cayenne pepper.
on the nose. Yeah, that
like
kind of thing. But it's actually the coffee. Like it turns immediately into coffee when you take a sip. It's weird because there's no spice on the actual drink that I'm getting.
That's pretty.
Ahoy here, this Jolly Rodger is a special blend of your favorite ales using multiple barrels. The first is an Imperial Stout that spent 8 months aging in St. George whiskey barrels. Then 6 months in Raisin Brown Rye. This is then blended with barley wine aged in Heaven Hill bourbon barrels for 12 months. I just want the barley wine. The concoction is completed with a final touch of locally roasted Marisate coffee beans from Mother Tongue Coffee in Oakland.
So, is there a point where you think they should have stopped?
Yes,
Like, did they do too much?
they could have just stopped at barley wine.
Yeah, well, but it is an interesting, like I am.
So
I feel more rich for having experience.
This is okay. So it's interesting. The final product to me is a little unbalanced. It's a little too sweetened coffee. It almost, because of the sweetened coffee, it almost tastes like a Thai coffee or have you ever, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, like cardamom and sweet.
Vietnamese coffee. I said Thai. My bad. Like a Vietnamese coffee. It's got that kind of sweet coffee thing going on. There's some fruity notes underlying that you get from the barley wine. Definitely, you get that. It's almost, although this is almost Belgian style fruity, but you also get that raisin and date dark fruit undertone.
I get a little cherry on it too.
Alan,
Right.
you were saying initially you thought this was pretty tasty.
Yeah. It's one of on your 1 to 4 scale. This would be 2 for me. Someone
Let's
gave it
share
to
one,
me.
yes.
Yeah,
I'm
shared
glad
one.
we're sharing it, right?
Yeah, I don't think we drink a whole. I don't
And I
think
do
we do
think
a whole.
most barley wine bottles are things to be opened and shared.
Yeah.
It's not,
What we're
I
looking
mean,
at?
I've
it's not like I'm home, I'm doing the
16%
dishes, I'm going to
I've
have
shared
that
some
barley.
barley wines before.
Yeah, I don't think I could drink a whole one by myself.
But this to me, and I like the stout
very,
element,
very
but
good, though.
the coffee is so forward in this that it almost bruises the stout element to me. That being said, it's nice. It's not a bad drink.
No,
I just feel like some of the components. I would love to taste the components of this.
I feel like a.
Oh yeah, I'm curious about the
I
stout.
bet
by
if we
itself.
deconstructed this, I bet the components, the barley wine itself, the stout itself, would have been really fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Like on the break, I was asking if you knew how much porter or stout
Right.
/ barley wine. I feel
Although
like it's more barley wine.
incredibly
than it is
interesting
stout.
and probably not cheap. I don't know what you paid for this, but it's also coming in at 16.3%. So it is outrageously big for a beer.
No question. Well, I think it's actually. I'm really glad that we tried it. It's not my favorite barley wine or my favorite stout that we've had by any means, but I'm really glad that we tried it. I feel like it's an experience we needed to have, if that makes sense.
It's just so much coffee that it's almost spicy because of the coffee.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, we got to take a break. Gentlemen, your New Year's resolutions are next in our final segment. I
Egad.
hope you have thought about it. And we'll be right back at Smoking and Toast.
Whiskey.
Show number 412, Smoking and Toasting is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And as we ring in the new year at Reserve 101, which has been a lot of fun. Thank you, guys. I appreciate this.
Our pleasure.
The
You're
whiskey you
welcome,
poured us has been just
Amazing.
just exceptional, yeah. So I mentioned at the top of the show we're going to do New Year's resolutions from everyone. I'm pretty sure I know Ian, so let's start with you.
Whiskey. I like cigars too. I think I'm going to do whiskey and cigars this year.
With more whiskey and cigars.
I was thinking about starting a podcast that talks about those things.
See, I feel like your resolutions are things you've already done.
Then they're easy to achieve.
I'm with you.
Actually, so on the real side, this year, the goal is to have at least 2 guests per month on the show, 1 show by ourselves and 1 show on location per month. That's going to be
I like that.
That's going to be the setup I'm going for. It's not always going to land exactly that way, but that's what I'm going to try to
like
do.
it, though. That's good
Because I think that's a good blend of us doing interesting stuff and keeping the show fresh and fun.
I like it. Good stuff. What about you, Fowler? You have any,
I plan
New
to
Year's
work
resolutions?
out and get fit and eat better. No, I plan to expand my knowledge of agave spirits,
Oh,
get into
this is
more
nice.
raicias
This is
and
nice.
mezcals, even more rums.
So I need to bring our Smoking and Toasting agave expert in one evening and just let you talk to her.
Oh, let's-
Liliana Rodriguez.
let's
She's
do it.
amazing.
She's so fun.
She knows. We've had her on the show a number of times. The last time she was on, we were doing some. I think it was a Reposado blind taste test, and she was admonishing us because we also had beers on the show.
She was so uncomfortable.
Can't do an actual tequila taste test if you've also had beer. Like, yeah.
She's like,
But-
you're ruining your palate.
Yeah, but we love her. She is the greatest. I will bring her in. We'll buy tequila all night
please
long,
do.
and,
Yeah.
and she will
actually had
she
the-
will school us on spirits. What about you? New Year's resolutions for you? Alan?
Kind of a little bit on the same lines of Fowler, just expanding my knowledge of spirits in general and doing
There's
more things
a lot
like
to
this.
learn, right? Like you can know a lot and still have a lot.
Oh yeah.
to learn,
Oh,
right?
there's
Always.
so much to learn.
Yeah.
So mostly just expanding my knowledge on a lot of different spirits.
I love that. I assume both of you have probably bartended different places, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the difference between bartending at a quote unquote normal bar versus bartending at a place that's kind of a whiskey specialized place like this?
Oh, we get just a lot of educations almost every Tuesday staff meeting that we do. We have a rep or a brand come in and we do an education, a lot of self-education, just knowing, being on top of that. And then also we do a lot of cocktails, so just flavors and food, expanding that knowledge and using that versus like just working at like a dive bar, which I've done.
We have a whole library
Club
of books
bars,
upstairs.
Yeah.
We have,
You guys also are responsible to have to know about these whiskeys, so you have to try them, right?
Oh yeah,
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I like to drink a lot
That's
of
part
them.
of your job. Like,
I can't sell it. I don't know what it tastes like.
Terrible job.
If I come over to you and go, well, what's that whiskey like? If you're like, I don't really know. I mean, that's not.
no, that's not a good
That's what I was
sales
looking
technique.
Yeah, yeah. So
I'm
on
gonna
the
probably
Fowler,
skip that one and go for something else.
to piggyback on Fowler is just knowledge.
Right.
Also, like the care to want to do this. Like,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
for everybody. Like,
No, that's
you
a
have
good
to
point.
care to
It's
do
not
it.
for everybody. Yeah.
and good ownership and good management, and we're taken care of, and just wanting to do the things
Definitely
that you're doing.
encouraged to and the self-education
Yeah.
thing too. We seek a lot of this stuff out ourselves, but then we're afforded the opportunity.
I would just say I have had such good times here. Like this is just what I love is that it's the kind of bar that you walk in, you look up at that tower of whiskeys, and you think, okay, this is gonna be a little pretentious. And in fact, it's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And that's so cool to me because it is so easy to be pretentious when you've got people who are, I'm going to use the word loosely, but experts. Yeah, I think you guys are experts, right? On this
No, not at all.
Certainly more so than probably the average customer.
We'll say intermediate.
Yeah. No more than most, but like still always
but the point
something to
though
learn.
is that when you walk in, it can be easy to be intimidated by those guys behind the bar who do know something about these, who maybe do know more than most. But these guys are not intimidating at all.
Especially when you come in from someplace so fancy as next door over there.
Well, yeah, the dirt bar. Yeah, exactly.
We love Dirt Bar, man. It's amazing.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Dirt bar is awesome, but much like their name, you know that's going to be a dive.
But like Ian said earlier, you can come in here and say, hey, I've had this, and this. What do you suggest?
Yeah.
We try to treat every customer that walks in, anybody that walks in that door, with open arms. You have a question, ask it. and
Even
we
when
can
you
answer
guys
it.
are busy, by the time you finally get that spot at the bar, when you guys come over and both of you do this, and there's a lady that works here and another guy that's behind the bar a lot of times, when you finally get up to the bar, you get looked directly in the eye and you get all the attention.
Right.
Like immediately, like what can I help you with? And there's
We
no
do
rush.
try to focus on the experience and,
Right,
and
it doesn't
hospitality.
feel like
and-
immediately now you're being rushed. Like you have to be like, because the problem with most bars, I get that. Okay, you want to go up there, and you got to know. But this bar, I'm going to need some help.
Absolutely. And the last thing that I'll mention is if you come over here after seeing a show at the House of Blues, you can walk in and go, wow, what I just paid for a beer over there is going to get me a really, really good whiskey over here. So that's another thing that's great about it. Guys, thank you so much for allowing us to do the show here for helping us bring in the new year. I do want to say as we close out, Happy New Year
Happy
to
New
everybody.
Year's.
Happy holidays. And as we like to say,
guys.
even when we don't have a ukulele,
Cheers, y'all. Hurt my feelings.